You never decided to carry the world. The weight simply appeared, a second skin grafted onto your childhood. Before you knew what responsibility meant, you felt its pressure on your small shoulders. Your childhood was a series of silent promotions you never applied for. At 5, you learned to keep a sibling quiet to avoid upsetting a parent. At 6, you could tell the difference between a tired sigh and a dangerous one. By 7, you were fluent in adult worries, your small finger tracing words like deductible as if they were spells to ward off disaster. This is parentification. The healthy boundaries between child and parent dissolved. Your relationship with your parents was never a true meeting of souls. You became the it, the tool, the regulator, the tiny therapist. Your own I, your real self, was never invited to the table. As the psychologist Carl Rogers noted, we must accept ourselves to change. But you were never given the chance to accept yourself. You were too busy managing everyone else. Psychology shows us that children will do anything to stay connected to their caregivers. This often leads to a loss of the self, where a child's own needs are buried to tend to a parent's emotional state. You were not just being raised, you were being enlisted. Research tells us that children in this role often develop precocious maturity. They look like small adults on the outside, while their inner child starves for attention. The praise, "You're so mature for your age," was poison disguised as compliment. It cemented the lie that your value was tied to your usefulness. You felt a grim pride in your competence. Like a soldier praised for bearing wounds without crying. You learned that your worth came from the absence of crisis in others. Your own happiness became a secondary thought. You learned the geography of tension before you could read a map. The creak of a certain floorboard meant someone was pacing again. The way a purse was set down meant you should be extra quiet. You became a cartographer of mood swings, navigating the emotional landscape of your home with the precision of a sailor reading storm clouds. Your purpose, whispered in the very atmosphere of your home, was to be the foundation that never cracks. In this fragile family, a tantrum was a luxury you could not afford. Tears were a currency that would bankrupt the family's stability, so you banked them. You built a dam inside your chest, holding back oceans of unmet childhood needs. When other children fell and scraped knees, they ran for bandages and hugs. You fell and learned to assess the damage in silence, calculating the emotional toll your pain would take on a parent who might sigh, "Not now, I can't handle this." You became an expert in the needs of others. You knew how everyone took their coffee, their favorite foods, which topics to avoid. But if someone asked you what you wanted for your birthday, your mind would go terrifyingly blank. The question felt like a test you were bound to fail. Your wants were not just unknown, they were forbidden territory. You knew a parent was anxious long before they did. But if asked, "What are you feeling?" the answer was a void. Your feelings were not data to be understood. They were threats to be managed. Anger was a spark that could start a fire. Sadness was a burden too heavy to add to the load. So you became a stranger to yourself, fluent in the language of others' needs, but mute to your own soul's whispers. The most profound pain arrives in the glimpse of a life you've never known. Walking home from school, you take a glance at other families, other children who arrived home, and were greeted by parents whose smiles weren't weighed down by 1,000 unspoken worries. You watch these scenes not with jealousy, but with a kind of deep curiosity. It was like watching a documentary about a culture you could never visit. The colors seemed brighter in their world, the air lighter. You'd feel a physical ache, a tightening in your throat, as if your body recognized a nourishment it had been starved of for years. This is the yearning for what psychologist D.W. Winnicott called the holding environment. The reliable space where a child can simply be without having to perform. You never had that. Your safety depended on your usefulness. But you are listening to this now and you are safe here. Safe to learn how to build, from the inside out, the home your heart has always longed for. That small child is still there, hiding inside you, waiting to be seen, to be heard, to be finally welcomed home. Your work is to open the door and invite them back into the world the only stole glances at. The daily check-in, a moment of gentle attention. Your inner child needs to know they are finally being listened to. Once a day, set a timer for just 2 minutes. Sit quietly and ask yourself this simple question. What do you need to feel safe and loved right now? You might not get an answer at first. That's okay. The magic is in the asking. This act teaches your inner child that your needs matter. Psychology shows that this simple practice of self-connection can slowly rewire a brain trained on hypervigilance into one that can experience calm. 2. Rediscover pointless play. Your childhood was stolen by constant doing. It's time to reclaim the joy of doing nothing with a purpose. This week, schedule 15 minutes to do something that has no point other than fun. This is a direct message to your inner child that it is finally safe to be carefree. Blow bubbles in your backyard. Color with crayons outside the lines. Put on one song and dance like no one is watching. This can feel silly. Let it be silly. That's the entire point. Research in play therapy demonstrates that these activities are powerful tools for healing developmental wounds, creating new neural pathways for joy. 3. The I want list. To counter a lifetime of self-erasure, start a simple list in your phone's notes app or a journal. Call it your I want list. Every day, try to add one small, kind thing you want for yourself. It doesn't have to be big. I want to watch the sunset. I want a warm drink. I want to wear my softest sweater. You can begin this repair by implementing these practices slowly. There is no need to overwhelm the very self you are trying to comfort. Focus on one at a time. The ultimate importance is not in the action itself, but in the message it sends, that it is now safe for your inner child to exist. The weight you carried was never yours to hold. The most courageous thing you can do now is to finally, gently set it down. This journey demands patience. There will be days when the old feeling of being responsible for everything comes rushing back and consumes you. Days when putting yourself first feels wrong. This is normal. The ache is not a sign of failure. It is the first evidence of healing. As the poet Rumi once said, the wound is the place where the light enters you.